chili oil, cheddar cheese, sourdough bread, crispy, crackly crust, perfectly chewy interior, and a ribbon of chili oil and cheddar cheese. Yes, you do need this bread in your life. I'm in my sourdough era where I'm loving every part of the bread making process and happily experimenting with inclusions. To make sourdough, you'll need active, bubbly starter, which is fermented live cultures. Basically, sourdough is fermented bread, which explains its deliciousness. You can't replicate the flavor and texture with regular yeast. It is a longer process, but it's well worth the time and effort you put into it. After mixing the dough together, there are 2 stages of fermentation that happen. The first, shown here, is called bulk fermentation. It is a series of stretch and folds that build structure and tension into the loaf. Every hour, we're going to dip our hands into water and grab one end and bring it over the other end, turning the bowl so the dough gets folded onto itself 4 to 6 times. This will build the necessary gluten networks while the wild cultures do their thing. You can see the dough getting puffy and changing completely. It does take time, up to 3 to 5 hours, but most of it is hands-off, waiting around and being patient. After this stage is done, we're going to add our inclusions. Spread out the dough into a rectangle or square shape. Add aromatic chili oil, which adds so much savory, spicy, umami flavor and goodness, and be as generous as you can. I like to add a lot. Top it off with cheddar cheese, which will melt into the loaf as it bakes. Shape into a ball or a boule, which is tricky with the inclusions, making sure not to rip or puncture any holes. But if you do, no biggie. I've done it too. Just pinch the dough back together. Now it's time for step number 2 in the fermentation process. We're going to transfer the bread into a special basket called a banneton, which helps to keep its shape. You will go into the fridge for a long, slow ferment, anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. The longer it sits, the more tangy your sourdough will be. When it's time to bake, score the loaf with a bread lahm and put into a preheated Dutch oven. Making sourdough is such an amazing process that's really quite therapeutic, and at the end you get an incredible loaf of